So in order to pass off their claim of, well, Jews are also entitled to self-determination, it can't be Jews are entitled. It has to be the Jews are entitled. So they are not Jews. They are the Jews. And the Jews want this land for themselves. This is their ancient homeland. But the Jews in Jerusalem said no. So they sent a guy, Rabbi Sonnenfeld sent a man who was a Dutch guy, Jacob Israel de Haan was his name. He was a lawyer. He was a professor. That's what he was doing. He was a professor in universities in Palestine. He spoke many languages, and he was a very, very well-known, famous academic. They sent him to Britain. Go ahead. Jacob Israel de Haan. Dehaan. Yeah. They sent him, the Rabbi Sonnenfeld sent him as a messenger to the British to tell the British, in the name of the Jewish community of Palestine, we don't want the Zionists here. We'd rather live under the Ottomans. We'd rather live under the British. Anybody, just we don't want Zionism. We don't want Israel. So here's what happened. Right before he left to England, he was walking out of a hospital where they had a prayer quorum there, and the streets were eerily empty. Strange. And he's walking out of the hospital, and a man, a Jewish guy named Avraham Tahomi, a non-religious Jew, comes over to him and says, "Sir, do you have the time?" He picks up his wrist to look at his watch. Tahomi pulls out a gun, shoots him 3 times in the chest, and he died a few minutes later. June 30th, 1924 was his 100th anniversary of his death. And Tahomi was a messenger of the Haganah, the Zionist paramilitary group, which later got absorbed into the IDF. There were various paramilitary groups. The largest and main one was the Haganah. And it was an assassination. It wasn't a manslaughter, wasn't even a murder. It was an assassination. The streets were empty because they made sure they would be empty. And they found this guy in Hong Kong later, and they interviewed him. And this is not a secret, to Google him. And they interviewed him. He said, him and his other guy, the other guys who were involved, they said, sure, we would do it again. He put Zionism in danger. So the Jews of Palestine said, we'd rather live here with the Arabs, the Palestinians, than have Israel. But the Zionists came and said, no, these people they want to kill all the Jews and want to kill all the whites, and they're jihadists. And they remember they one of the Israeli politicians, I think she was the associate mayor of Jerusalem or something, when they told her that Israel bombed a church. So she said, there are no churches in Gaza because they're jihadists. They got rid of all the Christians, right? No, there are churches in Gaza. And not only that, but like
not now,
but they're I know the PFLP. You know, the PFLP, which was not even a Muslim organization. They were Marxist, and the DFLP. These people were, some of these people were of Catholic origin, and this whole thing that this is a Islamist jihad, and every Palestinian, even the Christians, all they want is to take over the world. So the Zionists have convinced people of it. So the Chabad people,
yeah,
you will find, if you have a Chabad place, you will not find an Israeli flag in it.
No, they don't. That's true. That's true.
And this is why in other places you will find Israeli flags, because they are Zionist synagogues. As far as I'm concerned, they're idol worshippers, and coming to me with that is like coming to the Pope. This is what people have to understand. Yes, there's Orthodox Jews that are Zionists.
Yeah.
And there are religious Christians that are Zionists. And if you go to the Pope or to the Catholic Church and say, well, look, Zionism is part of Christianity because of these guys, the Pope will tell you, oh, excuse me, I'm a Catholic. Those are Protestants. It's a different religion. And someone who doesn't know the difference will say, hey, no. You all believe in Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God, the New Testament, the Trinity. Come on, these little differences. No, but the Pope would say it's 2 different religions. I know Catholics that tell me that evangelicals aren't even real Christians, right? And I say that the difference between me and the Zionist Orthodox Jews is wider and greater than the difference between the Pope and the evangelicals. And yes, they are Orthodox Jews in the same way that evangelicals are religious Christians.
Right.
But they have nothing. It's a different religion. And there, where they say Zionism is based on Judaism, is like saying Stan Lee's cartoon characters is based on Norse religion. Okay, they made Judaism, the Zionists made Judaism into a comic book.
It's a mockery.
It's a mockery.
It's a mockery.
And then it gets worse. Then imagine if Stan Lee and John Kirby would say, okay, we really will tell you what Thor is. Those Scandinavians, those Nordics, they don't really know what they're talking about. Thor flew because he threw his hammer Mjolnir and he flew with it. It's not true what they say, that he flew on a chariot with 2 goats. Leading it. No, those are those religious crazy guys. Stan Lee, I know what Nordic mythology really is. And anybody that disagrees with me about Thor and Odin, they don't know what they're talking about. And that's what they did. This is a comic book version of Judaism that tells the world we are the real version of Judaism. And now, you know, people are saying, okay, well, Zionism is based on Judaism. Yes, again, like Stan Lee's comic book characters is based on the Nordic religion, but Christianity is based on Judaism. That doesn't make it the same religion. They consider themselves the fulfillment of Judaism. And frankly, to give you a more gross type analogy, if you eat a real nice, great juicy steak, when you excrete whatever is left of it, that's also based on your steak. It doesn't mean it's the same thing. You could take something like Judaism, process it, do what you want, and then dump it in the toilet, and that's Zionism.
Where were people like you down here though? Like where was that? We were stuck going to the JCC and learning Hatikva. You know, what happened?
I'll tell you, because remember the beginning of the story of Judaism, all I want to do, all Orthodox Jews want. We're not a proselytizing religion. The reason is because you don't need to be Jewish in order to serve God. You could be a Noahide and serve God that way. If you want, you can convert. But it's not like, well, you're not saved if you're not Jewish. That's not true. You could be saved and be a Gentile. But all I want, because we're busy studying and learning. I'm busy doing my job that God gave me. If the Zionists have the money, you know what? If somebody would give me the money, I'd open up an organization to publicize the true version of Judaism. But I don't have the resource. We don't have the time. We don't have the money. We're a religion. We are a religion. These guys are a public relations operation. They infiltrated
like all our synagogues. Everything down here is so tainted.
Yes, and it starts with safety and security. We give the Jews security. Now we give you security, then the ideology comes in. It sneaks in like a Trojan horse. It's a Trojan horse. The horse is the security, and the payload is the Zionist ideology.
Rabbi, I want to leave you with this thought. I still think this is the best clip that ever captured the difference between Judaism and Zionism. And of course, it happened in Manhattan. This was back, I want to say, last spring, but we'll roll it real quick. I'm sure you'll recognize it when you see it. But guys, this is Zionism versus Judaism in a nutshell.
We come from Israel. Our people come from Israel. You have come from your people.
Zionism is a political movement which is causing bloodshed.
What are you talking about? That's where our family is from. I'm from Israel. How can you hold that flag?
This is because the actions of the Zionist people, they are responsible.
What are you talking about? That's where ancestors.
We lived in a beautiful peace.
What flag is that? How can you say that? You're a Jew.
We lived in a beautiful peace with Palestinian people for hundreds of years.
How can you say that? You're not a Jew. You're not a Jew. How dare you?
When Zionism came in, they caused bloodshed. They caused rivers of bloodshed.
How can you say that? You're Jewish. How can you shame your own people?
Who is a Jew?
We're Jews. This
We're all Jews here.
He was against Judaism.
Jewish too. We're all Jews here. All
Yeah,
right?
so how are they saying that?
Because they believe in God. Jewish,
I don't
I'm
want
standing
genocide.
it.
I don't want
You
that.
believe in God?
That's our country.
And the Talmud says
It's our country.
That is our country. How dare you say that about our own people?
Calls out Jewish. Calls out Jewish.
Fuck you!
We don't even need to play any more than clip because what I
That's
think is
Jacob Berger.
well, what this yes,
What?
and Jacob Berger is awesome.
Yeah, he
but
is.
What this clip captures, I think, more than anything else, is not just this whole idea that their level of privilege is just so out of sight, out of mind, but they also think they have the right to be violent without any repercussions. This woman is literally trying to physically hit people because she doesn't like what she's seeing. Like it offends her that somebody
Yeah.
is taking.
How dare you?
Yes, it's like, no. I was raised a certain way with Judaism, and that's the right way. The way that you're doing it is wrong. And it really shatters their worldview when it's their own people, supposedly, in her mind, that are being blasphemous against Judaism.
But you see, okay, two things I want to say about that clip. I don't remember seeing that clip, but there are two things. Thing number one, that woman is like Zionism. Zionism in general is irrational and logically incoherent. So she's saying, let's assume that she's right. Let's assume that Israel would be 100% right. Look, in every international conflict, when America bombed Afghanistan, there are people here in this country that were for America, people against America, right? When we bombed Saddam Hussein, fine. So I could say that you're 1,000% wrong about America, but I'm not going to say you're not an American if you disagree with my politics. This is not even, she said, our country, it's your country. First of all, America's my country. That's the difference. My country is America. I'm a Jew by religion. That's it. But even if it was my country, even if you're a Zionist, this is irrational. Because if my country was doing something wrong, I would say so. And I do say so if I think they're doing something wrong. So what? When I was a kid, everybody's protest. The whole world was whole country was protesting against the Vietnam War, except the construction workers, which is a long story. But so what? That means they're not American. Yeah, they were burning the American flag. They were but they did it because they're Americans and they feel a responsibility. And that leads me to the second thing that I must say about that clip and the clips like that. I say that I am more anti-Zionist than both of those sides, both of the sides in the clip. Why? Because, see, why would a Jew, to me, Israel is not the Jewish state. Israel's not the state of the Jews. There is no state of the Jews because the Jews are not a nationality. And if they would be, what would make Israel their state? A bunch of guys in 1948 decided this is the state of all Jews. There are Jews living there.
They think we're from there. She thinks she's from there.
What does that mean, from there? I believe in the Bible. And in the Bible, yes, there were Jews. In Joshua brought the Jews into the Holy Land. But before that, we were from Egypt. Before that, we were all from Abraham, Adam. Moses was never in the Moses wasn't Jewish. Moses never stepped foot in the Holy Land. What does that mean? And what does it mean anyway we're from there? How long ago? 2,000 years ago she was from there, even if she could trace herself back? What in the world does that even mean? Where were you guys from 2,000 years ago?
We're all from the same woman in Ethiopia. That's what I know.
It's insane. I believe we're from Eve. But it's insanity. It's an insane, irrational thing. But Israel, if you really, okay, people talk about Zionism and anti-Zionism, and this is part of the Zionist propaganda and a trap that we dare not fall into. I understand if people don't like what Israel's doing. I got that, no problem. But that is a far cry from being against Zionism. That is part of here's the difference. Let's assume, in theory, there would be a two-state solution and the Palestinians would have their own state, okay? Let's just assume. It's not happening, but theoretically. And let's assume even the Palestinians get 90% of the land and the Israelis are left with 10% in the Negev desert, okay? And let's assume both sides are happy. Let's assume even the Israelis are happy. No more rampaging Palestinian terrorists, we'll take the 10%. The colonialists were kicked out. They gave them 10%. The Palestinians are happy too, let's say. Okay, are the anti-Zionists happy? Is that a happy ending? Well, they're happy, but guess what? I'm not, because that didn't change Zionism. Israel would still be the same Israel that it is today, still stealing the Jewish identity, claiming that the Jewish is a national identity, still speaking in the name of the Jews, making trouble for me. It would be the same. The only difference would be is that the Palestinians are out of the fire. Okay. Now, there's nothing in Zionism, inherently in Zionism, that's against the Palestinians or the Arabs. Inherently, there's nothing. Had Palestine been a land without a people,
exactly,
there would be no problem. But it would still be anti-Jewish. It would still be anti-me. It would still be insisting that the Jewish people transform themselves into a nationality. The other quote unquote of the Zionists inherently is the Orthodox Jew. The circumstantial other that came later was the Palestinian. They just got in the way. So as far as I'm concerned, here's my question. Okay, I'm a Jewish guy. Let's say I don't like what Israel's doing. Okay, I also don't like what, let's say, maybe I don't like what Assad is doing in Syria, or maybe I don't like what China's doing with the Uyghur Muslims, or maybe I don't like India's doing in Kashmir, right? And let's say I disavow for decades, more than decades, for a half a century, not exaggerating. I have been going around telling people Israel does not represent the Jews. They have nothing to do with me. They do not speak in my name. That said, why would I protest Israel's actions more than China's actions or Syria's actions? You see, this is what Israel wants. I would protest America's actions more than Syria's actions because it's my country and have a responsibility. Israel's not my country. What they do, they claim they're doing it in the name of the Jews, and I say, not that I don't like what you're doing in my name now by bombing Gaza. You have no standing to do anything in the name of the Jewish people. When you do something good, it's not, the Jews should not get credit for it. When you invent an app, it has nothing to do with me. You are a foreign country. I'm an American by nationality. My family comes from Poland. And you were some Middle Eastern country created in 1948 that are no more Jewish than the Vatican, as far as I'm concerned, and less Jewish than the Vatican, because at least the Vatican, the Pope requires you believe in God. Israel does not. The Pope requires that you believe in the historicity of the Old Testament. Zionism does not. The Pope believes in a Messiah, not my Messiah. I say the wrong Messiah, but the Zionism does not. And the Pope wears a yarmulke, and Netanyahu does not. So I'm between me and you. An average law-abiding Muslim, average everyday religious law-abiding Muslim, okay, is closer to God, according to Judaism, than a godless heretic like Theodore Herzl or David Ben-Gurion.